Hello everyone, welcome to ITLS Academy. Our today's lecture is Resistance to Non-Antibiotic Antimicrobial Agents. In this lecture, our main focus will be on bacterial spores. Bacterial spores. Bacterial spores of the genera Bacilli and Clostridium are invariably the most resistant of all types of bacteria to biocides. Many biocides, example biganides and QACs, will kill or at lower concentrations be bacteriostatic, that is, they will not kill the bacteria but they inhibit the reproduction capability of bacteria, and non-sporulating bacteria but not bacterial spores. Other biocides such as alkylene, alkylene glutaraldehyde are sporicidal, although higher concentrations for longer contact periods may be necessary than for a bactericidal effect. Spore structure. A typical bacterial spore has several components. The germ cell, that is protoplast or core, and germ cell wall are surrounded by the cortex, external to which are the inner and outer spore coats. An exosporium is present in some spores but may surround just one spore coat. The protoplast is the location of RNA, DNA, dipicoline acid, and the most of the calcium, potassium, manganese, and phosphorus present in the spore. Also present are substantial amount of low molecular weight basic proteins, the small acid soluble spore proteins or SASPs, which are rapidly degraded during germination. The cortex consists largely of peptidoglycan, some 45 to 60% of muramic acid residues, not having either a peptide or an TV acetyl substituent, but instead forming an internal amide known as muramic lactam. The cortical membrane, that is germ cell wall or primordial cell wall, is a dense inner layer of the cortex that develops into the cell wall of the emergent cell when the cortex is degraded during germination. Two members, the inner and outer forespore membranes, surround the forespore during germination. The inner forespore membrane eventually becomes the cytoplasmic membrane of the germinating spore, whereas the outer forespore membrane persists in the spore integuments. The spore coats make up a major portion of the spore, consisting mainly of proteins with smaller amounts of complex carbohydrates and lipids and possibly large amounts of phosphorus. The outer spore coat contains the alkali resistant protein fractions and is associated with the presence of disulfide rich bonds. The alkali soluble fraction is found in the inner spore coats and consists predominantly of acidic polypeptides which can be dissociated to their unit components by treatment with sodium dodecyl sulfate. Spore development, that is sporulation and resistance. Response to a biocide depends upon the cellular stage of development. Sporulation, a process in which a bacterial spore develops from a vegetative cell, involves 7 stages. Of these stages, fourth and seventh, cortex and coat development, are the most important in relation to the development of biocide resistance. Resistance to biocidal agents develops during sporulation and may be an early, intermediate, or late or very late event. For example, resistance to chlorhexidine occurs at intermediate stage at the bottom the same time as heat resistance, whereas decreasing susceptibility to glutaraldehyde is a very late event. Mature spores and resistance. Spores, coatless forms produced by treatment of spores under alkaline conditions with urea plus diethioethritol plus sodium lauryl sulfate, have been of value in estimating the role of coats in limiting access of biocides to their target sites. However, this treatment removes a certain amount of spore cortex also. The amount of cortex remaining can be further reduced by subsequent use of lysozyme. These findings, taken as a whole, demonstrate that the spore coats have an undoubted role to play in conferring resistance of spores to biocides, and that the cortex also in an important barrier, especially since UDS plus lysozyme treated spores are much more sensitive to chlorine and iodine releasing agents that are UDS exposed spores. SASPs are essential for expression of spore resistance to ultraviolet radiation. Germination, outgrowth, and susceptibility of spores. During germination and or outgrowth, cells regain their sensitivity to antibacterial agents. Some inhibitors act at the germination stage, for example, phenolics and parabens, whereas others, such as chlorhexidine and QACs, do not affect germination but inhibit outgrowth. Glutaraldehyde at low concentrations is an effective inhibitor of both stages. During germination, several degradative changes occurs in spores. For example, loss of dry weight, decrease in optical density, loss of dipicolinic acid, increase in stainability, and increase in oxygen consumption, whereas biosynthetic processes such as RNA synthesis from DNA synthesis and protein synthesis, that is process of translation, as well as cell wall synthesis is also included, and these become apparent during outgrowth. It is difficult at present to put forward a theory that will account for the relative specific activity of most biocides during these two very dissimilar cellular changes. Next one is physiological or phenotypic adaptations to intrinsic resistance. Bacteria grown under different conditions may show wide response to biocides. For example, flattened cells of Staphylococcus aureus obtained by repeated subculturing in glycerol containing media are more resistant to benzyl penicillin and higher phenols. Both nutrient limitation and reduced growth rates may alter sensitivity of bacteria to biocides. These changes in susceptibility can be considered as the expression of intrinsic resistance brought about by exposure to environmental conditions. These aspects assume greater importance when organisms existing as biofilm are considered. The association of microorganisms with solid surfaces leads to the generation of biofilms, which may be considered as consortia of bacteria organized within an extensive exopolysaccharide polymer. The physiology of bacteria existing at different parts of biofilm is affected because the cells experience different nutrient conditions, growth rates are likely to be reduced within the depth of a biofilm. One reason being the growth limiting concentrations of essential nutrients that are available. Apart from nutrient limitation and diminished growth rates, another reason for this decreased susceptibility is the prevention of access of a biocide to the underlying cells. Thus, we can say in this mechanism, the glycocalyx as well as the rate of growth of the biofilm microcolony in relation to the diffusion rate of the biocide across the biofilm can affect susceptibility and growth. Next one is acquired bacterial resistance to biocides. Acquired resistance to biocides result from genetic changes in cell and arises either by mutation or by the acquisition of genetic material, that is plasmid transposon, from another cell. Next one is resistance acquired by mutation. Acquired non-plasmid encoded resistance to biocides can result when bacteria are exposed to gradually increasing concentrations of a biocide. So we can say that acquired resistance to biocides results from genetic changes in a cell and arises by mutations. Next one is plasmid encoded resistance. First is resistance to cations and anions, that is positive ions and negative ions. Resistance developed due to these ions. Amongst the Enterobacteriaceae, plasmids may carry genes specifying resistance to antibiotics and, in some instances, to mercury, organomercury, and other cations and some anions. Mercury resistance is inducible and is not the result of training or tolerance. Transposons, that is TN501, conferring mercury resistance has been widely studied. Plasmids conferring resistance to mercury are of two types. First is narrow spectrum and second one is broad spectrum. First one is narrow spectrum. Narrow spectrum conferring resistance to Hg, that is mercury, and to a few specified organomercurials. Second one is broad spectrum. Broad spectrum resistance encoding resistance to those in one plus other organomercury compounds. There is enzymatic reduction of mercury to Hg metal and its vaporization in one and enzymatic hydrolysis followed by vaporization in two. Plasmid encoded resistance to other metallic ions has also been described, but apart from silver, is probably of little clinical relevance. Next is resistance to other biocides. Plasmid mediated resistance to other biocides has not been widely studied, and the results to date may be somewhat conflicting. Plasmid encoded resistance to formaldehyde has been described in Mycobacterium, presumably due to aldehyde degradation. There is evidence that some plasmids are responsible for producing surface changes in cells and that the response depends not only on the plasmid but also on the host cell. Gram-negative bacteria showing high resistance to QACs and chlorhexidine as well as to antibiotics have been isolated, but it has not been possible to establish a linked association of resistance in these organisms. Furthermore, increased resistance to some cationic biocides, that is chlorhexidine, QACs, diamidines, and now little used crystal violates and acridine dyes, and to other cationic agent, that is ethidium bromide, is found in MRSA stain carrying genes encoding gentamicin resistance. MRSA strains are a frequent problem in hospital infections. Such strains often showing multiple antibiotic resistance, and it can also be multi-drug resistance, that is known as MDRs. Recombinant Staphylococcus aureus plasmid transferred into E. coli, that is Escherichia coli cells, are responsible for conferring resistance in the latter organism to these agents. Multi-drug resistance to antibiotics and cationic biocides has also been described in coagulase negative staphylococci epidermitis mediated by multi-drug export genes QACA and QACC. Evidence has been presented to show the expulsion or efflux of acridine, ethidium bromide, and crystal violet and diamidines. These are dyes used for the detection. Next is sensitivity and resistance of fungi. First of all, we will study mechanism of fungal resistance. By analogy with bacteria, two basic mechanisms of fungal resistance to biocides can be investigated. First is intrinsic, also known as natural or innate resistance. In one form of intrinsic resistance, the fungal cell wall is considered to present a barrier to exclude or more likely to reduce the penetration by biocide molecules. The evidence to date is sketchy, but the available information tentatively links cell wall glucan, wall thickness, and consequent relative porosity to the sensitivity of Saccharomyces cerevisiae to chlorhexidine. Second one is acquired resistance. This term is used to denote resistance arising as a consequence of mutation or via the acquisition of genetic material. There is no evidence linking the presence of plasmids in fungal cell and the ability of the organism to acquire resistance to fungicidal or fungistatic agents. Fungicidal are agents that kill the fungi, while fungistatic agents stop or inhibit the reproduction process in fungi. Next one is sensitivity and resistance of protozoa. Several distinct types of protozoa, for example, Giardia, Cryptosporidium, Naegleria, ant amoeba, and Acantha amoeba, are potentially pathogenic and may be acquired from water. As we know that these are unicellular eukaryotic organisms. a resistant cyst stage is included in their life cycle. The trophozoite form, being sensitive to biocides, little is known about mechanism of inactivation by chemical agents, and there appears to have been few significant studies linking accessment and enhancement with the development of sensitivity and resistance respectively. From the evidence currently available, it is likely that the cyst cell wall acts in some way as a permeability barrier, thereby conferring intrinsic resistance to the cyst form. Next one is sensitivity and resistance of viruses. An important hypothesis was put forward in the USA by Klein and De Forest in 1963 and modified in 1983. Essentially, the original concept was based on whether viruses could be classified as lipophilic, hydrophilic. First one is lipophilic. Lipophilic means these are lipid loving organisms, that is, those such as Herpes simplex virus, which possessed a lipid envelope, and second one is hydrophilic, that is, lipid loving. For example, poliovirus, which did not contain a lipid envelope. In the latter, that is 1983 modification, three groups were considered. After modification, there were three groups. First one was lipid enveloped viruses, which were inactivated by lipophilic biocides. Second one was non-lipid picomaviruses. Third, other large non-lipid viruses, for example, adenovirus. Here, this is the third point of three groups that were considered after modification. This line should be here, but unfortunately this is here. So you can consider it as third point. Next one is pharmaceutical and medical relevances. So we are going to discuss pharmaceutical and medical relevance. The inherent viability in biocidal sensitivity of microorganism has several important practical implications. For example, the population of bacteria making up the normal flora of organism contaminating the working surfaces, floors, air or water supply in an environment such as a hospital pharmacy will probably contain a very low number of naturally resistant organisms. These might be resistant to the agent used as a disinfectant because they have acquired additional genetic information or lost by mutation genes involved in controlling the expression of the genes. In the absence of antimicrobial agents, the resistant strains would have no competitive advantage over the sensitive strains, and in fact, they might grow more slowly and would not predominate in the population. Under the selective pressure, under the selective pressure introduced by continual use of one kind of disinfectant, resistant strains would predominate as the sensitive strains are eliminated. Tuberculosis Tuberculosis caused by Mycobacterium tuberculosis is on the increase in the developed countries such as the USA and UK. Furthermore, MAI may be associated with AIDS sufferers. AIDS that is caused by human immunodeficiency virus. Here we can say that hospital acquired opportunistic microbacteria. Opportunistic means in normal condition they do not cause any disease. In the case where the immune system of any person is strong, these bacteria may not be able to cause disease in that particular person, but in the case of low immunity or when person is suffering from any disease, in that case these bacteria will grow under their body and will cause infection. So they were not there for causing any infection, but they got opportunity and they caused infection. That's why they are called as opportunistic pathogens. So we can say that hospital acquired opportunistic microbacteria or mycobacteria may cause disseminated infection and also lung infections. endocarditis and pericarditis also caused by these hospital acquired opportunistic mycobacteria. Transmission of mycobacterial infections by endoscopy is very rare, despite a marked increase in the use of flexible fibrio-optic endoscopes. But bronchoscopy is probably the greatest hazard for the transmission of Mycobacterium tuberculosis, and also a greatest hazard for the transmission of many other mycobacteria. So thank you very much guys for watching this session. Our resistance to non-antibiotic antimicrobial agents completed here. In first part we covered introduction to resistance to non-antibiotic antimicrobial agents, and also we have studied intrinsic and acquired resistance in bacteria. Our this lecture was particularly based on the bacterial spores. Although we have studied many other spores, that is inhibitors of protozoa, fungi and many more things. So thank you very much for watching this session. Guys, you can follow ITLS Academy on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter and also on YouTube. You can get any update on WhatsApp and also on LinkedIn, which is a great platform for job opportunities. Guys, you can subscribe ITLS Academy on YouTube. So please subscribe on YouTube and press the bell icon. You can also get the app of ITLS Academy on Google Play Store. So again, thank you very much for watching this session.